But you see, I'm taken aback by this borrowing. I thought there was a 1 billion we took recently from World Bank, or we say we're going to take, because you see, the borrowing is so much now that you've lost track. I've lost track. There's another 1.15 trillion for budget support. There's another 2.5 trillion and 500 million, 2.5 billion and 500 million for Sukuk and all of that. At the same time, it is this same government that released a message that we have removed subsidy so that we can make savings, and they are making savings. Secondly, the same government, in one breath, says they are breaking records with revenue. So why are we borrowing? See, I'm sorry, with my little knowledge about things, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think your revenue is supposed to be able to cover your nascent costs. So if you are raising the revenue and we are borrowing heavily, take for instance the case of the Eurobond we needed to pay up. We decided to take loans to be able to clear up a Eurobond, but we have reserves. So there are many things that I don't understand. But the borrowing is getting too much. This was not the agreement we had now. When we said, okay, subsidy gone, the agreement was that, we're going to save more money and expend them on projects. We didn't say subsidy gone and borrowing will continue. So where are all the subsidy savings as we speak today? At the same time, in all of this, we are making more revenue. Contractors are not being paid. Ayo, I've been getting messages from Association of Indigenous Contractors in this country. Finally, it came to an end where they went to the National Assembly yesterday to protest. They said the Deputy Speaker had tried to broker a deal with them with the Ministry of Finance. They said about 3.1 billion or something will be paid, or trillion. The next thing, the contractors said they've not been paid their money. So we can't pay contractors. We are saying we are getting revenue at the same time. We are borrowing heavily. So what is really going on? And that's why we need to tell ourselves the truth in this country. Has this subsidy removal really done the magic we claimed it was going to do? Because it was supposed to be able to save money and be able to expend them to contracts. As regards the probe, I think, and I totally support the probe into the railway projects Buhari did. That Warri Itakpe line has derailed many times. Even look at the Kaduna line, derailed. But with the National Assembly, it's just talk shop. Ayo, is it the same National Assembly that say off your mic? Till today, you didn't hear anything from off your mic. I don't trust any National Assembly. If they want to restore my confidence in them, they should tell us what transpired off your mic and the NDDC project and what happened. That's when I would take them seriously. All the talk of probe, it's off your mic that we end it. And for good measure, some people will faint. You remember when they were fainting? As regards the matter of this America and Nigeria, I see a lot of skewing of narrative. You know, this country, may God save this country. We have now turned the narrative into North versus South, which is not supposed to be. We have now done propaganda to an extent where it's now us versus them. No. Are people dying across every part of the country? Yes. Are Northerners, Southerners dying? Yes. Are Nigerians dying? Yes. Has this government done well at stopping the killings? No, they can do more. Because Trump has talked about it now, then there's been a lot. Like I've always said, we're a sovereign nation. Nobody can come in and invade our country without our say-so. We have seen security forces said, okay, we can get American support. But the question is, how can the problem end, the problem of killing? There's a popular adage from where I come from. They say a man sees a snake, a woman kills it. As long as the snake is dead. Please, let's take this matter out. And for us that we are so delusional now to think China loves you so much, with due respect, China is speaking for its own interests. Out of the 270,000 tons of rare earth oxide, rare earth metals, China mined over close to 13,000 tons from Nigeria. They are the ones shipping our rare earth metals easily away. So if America is talking about strikes, which I don't believe, which I just think Trump is bluffing largely, That's about strikes in the area where China is mining their rare earth metal. You think China will just look and be saying they should come? So when we are acting like China loves us so much, China is talking about its own interest, or the EU that is talking in our House of Board. You think they love you so much? EU that in this country close to 44 billion is going out. There's a particular refinery out of Rotterdam that out of Nigerian crude and everything, they make close to 9 billion. Everybody's talking about their own interest. But when are we going to have leaders that are in the interest of Nigerians? That's the problem we've always had in this country. Because you can see other countries fighting for their own interests. We are always constantly about the interests of our politicians that steal and exploit us. So it's a very sad dilemma that we are currently facing now. And please, we should not fall for all this love here and there and all of that. But quickly, a point I really want to make that is very important is I believe the Nigerian army can stop this killing. Is it not the same that this our country is a great country? I am so proud to be a Nigerian. This was the same Nigeria that set up the ECOMOG force. Over 70% of the troop of the ECOMOG force was from Nigeria. That worked over 7 years to bring parity and peace back to Liberia and to Sierra Leone. Nigeria expended $15 billion of its money on ECOWAS. As at that time, if you adjust that money from inflation between 1991 to 1997, from 1997 to about 2001, if you adjust that $15 billion for inflation, Nigeria spent in today's money is over $30 billion to restore peace and parity to West African countries. That same country is great enough to solve its own problem. We need leadership.
All right. Okay.
Nigerian newspapers this morning are reporting the passing of General Abdullahi Mohammed. General Abdullahi Mohammed, the papers report, both online majorly, that he has passed at the age of 86. He was a distinguished military officer, dedicated public servant, and he served for the better part of his life Nigeria diligently, steadfastly, and with a great sense of patriotism. He was governor of, I think, Plateau State, Benue Plateau State, as it then was, 1976-1979. He was Director General of the National Security Organization, the NSO, before the name was changed and it became the National Security Agency, or the NIA, the Nigerian Intelligence Agency. He was, I think, Chief of Staff to General, President Olusegun Obasanjo. From 1999 to 2007, he also served President Shehu Yaradua, as Chief of Staff. He was NSA under General Abubakar Abdul Salami. So you have there a man who served his country diligently. So it's a major loss for Nigeria that such a distinguished general has passed. But we thank God for his life and, for the fact that he had the benefit of making his own contributions, distinguished contribution to the making of Nigeria. Now, as for the PDP, we're now told that the Court of Justice Akintola has now given a ruling to say that the convention November 15 to 16 can hold. I had said, I think earlier this week, that the PDP can go back to the court, seek, go on appeal perhaps, ask for an affidavit of urgency for the ruling of the Court of Justice James Omotosho to be upturned. But what they have now done is to go to the Oyo State High Court. Now, some people just looking at it may say, this is like forum shopping. The courts are of equal jurisdiction. But the issue, the rule, is that where the equities are different, where the subject matter is different, where the persons making the application are also different. Then, of course, what will apply will be the rule of lex posteriori, or what is called res judicata. So in this case, the difference on all of those matters that I've identified, the person who went to Oyo State High Court is different. The subject matter is different. The parties, they are also different. So I imagine that perhaps it is now that Oyo State High Court ruling, which is the latest. That's what I was referring to when I said lex posteriori. That will take effect. However, the other party can also go on appeal. But the residual point is about, the fact that what is the party? The PDP is in trouble. I don't know whether they are still in ICU, as Senator Gabriel Suswam said, but the party is truly troubled. But we'll see what happens hereafter. The other camp can also quickly rush to court. So it's an unfolding drama. The next thing about the Minister of Foreign Affairs speaking in Berlin, in Germany, with his German counterpart, saying that, look, the Nigerian constitution does not allow religious persecution. And that is the thing that everyone should note. And I think he's right. Section 10 of the 1999 Constitution says that there shall be no state religion in any part of this federation that is called Nigeria. Section 38 says, look, as a Nigerian, you have the freedom of thought, conscience, and belief. Section 39 says that you have the freedom of expression. Section 40 says that, look, you can associate with people, freedom of assembly. Section 42 says that there shall be no discrimination against anybody in this environment on the basis of faith, religion, or belief, or circumstances of birth. So he's very right to quote the Constitution. But you may then argue that, look, the reality is different. But I get the more important point that Minister Tuga was making, which is that, look, nobody should attempt to turn Nigeria into an equivalent of Sudan, where religion and tribal sentiments, prevail and determine relations within the country. However, the point to make is that religion, as well as ethnicity, are two of the major principal centrifugal forces in the Nigerian question, at the heart of the national question, often exploited by politicians when it is convenient for them. So, and that is why you find this, impression that, look, religion is a problem in Nigeria, and then the established Western media mind, that, look, Nigeria is divided into north to south. After all, the ACF was here, the leaders, board of trustees, and they were saying, look, those categorizations are not just as exact. However, we face the challenge of the characterization by President Donald Trump. And now we have China coming forward and saying, look, the US should not label Nigeria. We have the EU also supporting, the Nigerian government. Look, the rule in international diplomacy is to make friends and to pursue your own interests and to have allies within the international space. China is a major rival of the United States. So we'll be expecting too much if we think that China will take the same position as the United States when it comes to international relations. They're not taking the same position on Russia-Ukraine. It's not the same position on artificial intelligence. It's not even the same position that both countries take in terms of geopolitics. Now, America has tried to push back to say China cannot dictate their foreign policy. But I think it's a good development for Nigeria that we have China speaking up as a friend of Nigeria and saying, look, you cannot dictate to Nigeria as to how Nigeria runs its affairs. And the EU also, showing solidarity. After all, the other day, the EU just, approved some amount for pharmaceuticals, for local production in Nigeria. So it's good to see that Nigeria is not isolated and that there are countries and regions that are willing to speak up against Trump's unilateralism, against Trump's hypocrisy, and Trump's mischaracterization of religious relations in Nigeria. So that's the context of that. Now, the Nigerian government says it's going to borrow, domestic borrowing, right?
Yes.
1.5 trillion. The budget for the year 2025 is 59.9 trillion. Now, at the time, the government said there was a deficit of, I think, 1.1 trillion. Now, what the Tinubu administration is now trying to do is to fix that deficit by asking for 1.5 trillion domestic borrowing. And the Senate, having referred the matter to the committee level, says that this money will be used to pay local contractors. Now, the classical argument by people who know this subject much better, because it's their daily fare, is that, look, borrowing is not the problem. It is what you do with the money. And they argue, all these local contractors, we have had issues with these local contractors in this country. Local contractors are the problem that we have been discussing since Monday about, is it the NFF, Nigeria Football Federation, yes, about the building of a stadium, yes, either in Ugborodo or in Benin Kebbi. These contractors abandon the job. So who are these contractors who are to be paid? What we can ask for is transparency. What we can ask for is accountability. And also, the same Senate treating the matter says that the Senate of the Federal Republic, the representatives of the people, are now going to probe railway projects under General Muhammadu Buhari because of suspected lack of transparency and accountability. Maybe there is a lot more that they need to probe, not just railway projects, because what the Nigerian people are asking for is basically transparency and accountability. And accountability, even if they say they are borrowing, domestic borrowing 1.5 trillion that they want, we would like to know what they do with it. And what is the item by item content that this money will be spent upon, so that all of us, including those of us who sit here every morning raising questions, can follow item by item. And I think that the desk stuffs, the box stuffs at the desk of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, so that he can allay the fears of people who say, borrowing all the time. And I agree with the view that we have even lost count. But if we have proper documentation, we can track it. And you have civil society groups like Budget that we should encourage, like SERAP that we should encourage, like Enough is Enough that we should encourage to continue to help, the Nigerian people to track all of these details.